What's up guys, David here. Just making a quick video today. I wanted to talk about the Apple products and their resale value. As we all know, traditionally Apple's always been one of the companies where their products, after you've bought one and owned it a few years, it retains a lot of its resale value. I've personally, benefited from this. I've had Apple products for quite a few years now. I'm sure we've all sold old iPhones and old other products and gotten a decent return on what their original cost was in comparison to other products like Toshiba laptops, HPs, Samsung phones. All those other brands tend to deteriorate pretty quickly in terms of their value. So pretty much as soon as you bought it, you can't sell it for what it's worth. It's sort of like a car. We all know technology doesn't really hold its value, but those certain brands don't hold it as much as Apple. So Apple's always been one of those ones where you could buy the new thing and sell your old one and get a decent price back. Now, I want to talk about, I think that's actually started to change, probably because of a saturation of Apple products. It's very popular now. Apple was a niche brand back 10-15 years ago. They weren't as big as they are now. Now they're sort of ubiquitous with technology. They are one of the main smartphone makers. They sort of started it and everyone's jumped on board, and from iPhone they sort of launched their iPad line. So I think what has happened is their products have lost their resale value. Now, the reason I make this is you've probably seen my last video where I mentioned I had the iPad Pro. Now, the iPad Pro I bought for work. I use mainly for work, and previous to this I had an iPad Mini. Now, I was going to sell the iPad Mini, pass it along, and I've been trying to sell it for the last few months now, and I cannot sell it. I've had some really ridiculously low offers, and that's about it. Nothing really substantial. I've had the iPad for sale on Gumtree, eBay, and no one is interested in it. It's just like there is so much market saturation of iPads at the moment that buying a second-hand one is not really that viable. So it's sort of odd that it's gone the other way, where iPads used to be you could sell them pretty easily once you bought a new one. I sold my iPad 3, if you call it that, the Retina, the first Retina iPad. At the time, I sold that for a decent amount when I got my iPad Mini, and now I can't seem to sell the iPad Mini. Now I have the iPad Pro. Funnily enough, I have changed jobs since I bought the iPad Pro and don't use it anywhere near as much as I did before. So I did consider selling the iPad Pro, but considering it was a $1,600 iPad that I'm actually paying off on a plan, like a cellular plan, I looked online and the same iPads are now selling for $1,000. So it's almost as if within 10 months, $600 has been shaved off the price. It's insane. And I can't say I'm surprised in terms of other products, but for an Apple product, that's insane. And you compare this to like my 2013 iMac, which I bought in 2013, pretty much smack bang when it came out. I've got the 21.5 inch iMac, not a base model. I actually spec'd it up and paid the extra to have it all spec'd up. So my iMac is actually like an Core i7. It's got the 16 gigabytes of RAM. Sorry, I've got a fair bit of traffic around me at the moment, so I'm a little trying to pay attention to the road while also talking. And I spec'd that up, and it's held its value fairly well. In 3 years, like iMacs that were $1,500, the base models are now selling for $1,200 to $1,000. So they're selling for a decent return on what they were after 3 years. They're out of warranty now. Mine, I can't really, being a niche one where it's had all the specs, it's a bit hard to find any comparable, but I spent $2.5 grand on it. I reckon I could easily get $2 grand back. One of the funny things is my MacBook Pro from 2011. Now, albeit I have upgraded my MacBook Pro, it does have a SSD and 16 gigabytes of RAM at the moment. From 2011, and it's still worth, based on eBay and Gumtree sales, about $1,000. Now, that's pretty crazy considering it's nearly 6 years old. It's like 5 years old, coming up on 6 years, and that's pretty crazy that it's only diminished. I spent $1,500 on that thing when it came out, and it's worth $1,000 nearly. Given I have spent money to upgrade it, but that's crazy compared to an iPad which is 10 months old and already worth $1,000. Like, think about how much my iPad's going to be worth in 6 years. It is not going to be worth what my MacBook Pro is at the moment 6 years later. So I guess it seems like Apple's devices, particularly iOS devices, are absolutely plummeting in terms of price. Like, resale value is not there anymore. I thought it was, and you know, that's why I went with the iPad Pro, thinking I could sell the iPad mini and make back a decent amount of the cost, but it's almost not worth selling. Like, now I've got all these products, it's like, I feel like I'm a little bit saturated with products and spoiled for choice as to what I'm going to use. I've got a MacBook, I've got an iPad Pro, I've got an iPad mini, I've got an iPhone, I've got an iMac. It's like, I don't need this many devices, but selling them is almost not worth it, simply because of how poor the resale value has dropped down. That it's like, well, I'm not going to sell my iPad Pro for $1,000 when I only just got it, and I definitely am not going to sell my MacBook Pro. I'm not going to sell my iMac because that is my main editing machine, and my iPad mini I can't seem to sell at all unless I basically give it away to someone, so I may as well just keep it. So yeah, that's basically it for this video, guys. Have you noticed as well any of your products you can't seem to sell? You can't seem to sell any iPads, iOS devices, iPod Touches? Are they all going down? It seems the older style Apple products are shooting up in value as they become more obsolete and antiques, and those newer devices running iOS are gonna just hit the dust. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you did like this video, subscribe for more and hit that like button. See yous.